Hello and welcome to another painting video. In this video, I'll be painting a squad of Skitarii Rangers. Because I already have a lot of World Eaters now, I wanted to start a new army. Because why not, right? Plastic addiction is a thing. I always had a soft spot for the Mechanicus and their weird lore. It's an amazing model range and I wanted to try a grim dark Mechanicus while also keeping the colors relatively light. Let's begin, shall we? After priming the models with black primer, I want to build up a bright base coat. I spray the entire model with Ushabti bone. If a little black is showing in the recesses, it's fine. Next, I spray Wraithbone as a zenithal on the model. I mostly focus on the upper part. And I spray Aluminium metal color from Vallejo on the model. And wow, look at the bright metal color. It kinda looks like a tin model now. This is a great base to work from, and of course this can all be done by a brush. I use the airbrush for convenience and speed here. Now I'm going to shade the entire model with Nuln Oil. I'm specifically using the new formula here because I want to darken the recesses and not stain the metal too much. Any parts of the weapons and armor I want brass, I paint with Screaming Bell. I then highlight the brass with Sycorax Bronze. I don't know if it's my pot specifically, but damn, this paint is impossible to paint with. The problem is this color works perfectly on Screaming Bell and I haven't found a suitable replacement. It takes a couple of coats to get this on there. I then wash the entire model again. Now with Targor Rageshade. This gives a really grimy and oily effect on the bright metal. Finally, I dry brush the entire model with Runefang Steel to highlight. Now this looks a lot better. It's probably a fun way to paint Necrons now that I think of it. Well, let's paint all the cloth next. The pants I paint with Eshin Grey. After painting the models, I noticed some of them are actually wearing gloves, so I painted those the same way. I shade the cloth with Nuln Oil. Then I add two highlights. First is Mechanicus Standard Grey. And second is Dawnstone. The aluminum metal color gives the models quite a smooth surface. This means that some paint takes a little bit more effort to base coat on there. Do keep that in mind. Next, I'm painting the red rope with a cram lining. First, I base coat the entire rope with Xandri Dust. This paint covers the metal quite well actually. I layer the rope with Ushabti bone. I cover most of the rope here. I further highlight the rope with Screaming Skull, both the outside as the inside. And now comes the fun part. I paint the outside of the rope with Blood Angel Red. This contrast paint gives the rope a really nice bright red color. I further highlight the red rope with Demon Red from two thin coats. And end with a highlight of Wild Rider Red. I personally really enjoy this step, as it is a very easy recipe to paint these red ropes while still having a cool creme inner lining. If you make a mistake here, and I made a lot of them, it's easy to fix. Use Ushabti bone on the inner lining or Blood Angel Red to fix the red parts. I'll be adding some wooden panels on these baroque looking rifles. I base coat with Rhinox Hide. I also paint any pouches I find on the cyborg or his backpack. I highlight the brown with Gorthor Brown. And highlight again with Baneblade Brown. Most of the tubes I paint with Black Legion. And highlight with Dawnstone. But to add some variety, I do paint a couple of tubes with Vallejo white. So I can paint them with Striking Scorpion Green. This fluorescent green is a fun spot color. This made me experiment a little bit more with spot colors, which you'll see in a little bit. I was surprised to see purity seals on these models as well. The paper I already painted the same way as I did the inner lining of the robe, but the seal I paint with sword-hilt burgundy. Shade with Carroburg Crimson. And highlight with a mix of sword-hilt burgundy and Kislev Flesh. The sigil of the Adeptus Mechanicus is found on all these models. First, I paint the entire sigil white. I'm using Vallejo white, but feel free to use any white you want, of course. I shade the sigil with Soulblight Grey. This is a very nice subtle shade for white. The half of the skull and the other half of the cog I paint with Corvus Black. You can use the white to fix any mistakes. I then shade the black parts with Black Templar to create the iconic ATMEX symbol. If you want super clean looking Rangers, you can skip this step, but I love it grim dark, so I'm coating the entire model with streaking grime. I then take a makeup sponge with some white spirit and remove most of the streaking grime, leaving it in the recesses. I also dab the dirty sponge on big surfaces to create some interesting splotches of grime. I personally like having my models a little bit grimy. Because I use a lot of bright colors, the model doesn't look as dark and unsaturated as I normally do. Any lenses I find on the model I base coat with Vallejo white. Then add the contrast paint Frostheart to create a nice bright blue light. With Vallejo white I add small dots to add some light reflection. Bonus plasma tutorial. First I base coat the coils with Baharroth Blue. Dry brush Templar Blue on the upper parts of the coils, leaving the bottom bright. I dry brush Sotek Green on the most upper parts to create a gradient from dark to light. Then I add Oilbrusher White from Ammo MIG on the bottom parts of the coils. This is an oil paint with a handy applicator. With White Spirit I now remove and thin the white so it runs nicely between the coils. For a light reflection, I add Eshin Grey on the coils. This is a fun and quick way to paint plasma coils. The Oilbrusher could be substituted for an acrylic paint, but because it's oil, it does allow you to play around with it with White Spirit. How to paint a Martian base. First, I paint the base with Doombull Brown. I also paint the rocks I placed on the base. I then add Martian Ironcrust thickly on the base. Leave a lot of time to dry. I washed the base with Reikland Fleshshade and add Agrax Earthshade to the bottom of the rocks to add some additional shading. Now I'll add a couple of dry brushes. First, I dry brush Tuskor Fur on the entire base. A second dry brush is Oriza Rust. And a third dry brush of Kindleflame. Next, I add Vallejo Dark Red Ogre Pigment to both the base and some lower parts of the model. This will integrate the model more with the base. It'll look like they're walking on the dusty plains of Mars. I drop a pigment fixer on the pigment to seal it on the base. I personally don't like the Greenstuff World version I have, as it is very glossy. So if someone has a better alternative, let me know. Finally, I paint the rim of the base with Corvus Black. And here we have a squad of Skitarii Rangers. These cute little cyborgs look proper grimdark, but still have a brightness to them which will pop on the battlefield. Gotta say, these AdMech models are way too cute and they have some really disturbing undertones. If you know the Chicken Walker model, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In my next video, I'm going to paint another unit of the AdMech, which is half human, half vehicle, and all cool. In the meantime, be sure to check out my Instagram, where I post pictures of current projects and behind the scenes stuff. But for now, thanks for watching.